Hey there, cats and kitties. I am the Blues Man, Johnny Blues, and this is going to be a brief little review for Natsuyuki Rendezvous, Episode 11, the beautiful final chapter of this story. And I have to say, this episode just hit every note on the head by leaps and bounds, and it even went a step further by the end of it as far as all my hopes and expectations for how the series would end. Now, of course, this episode opens right where we left off with the conversation between Roka and her spirit husband, Atsushi Shimao, who is still as yet inhabiting the body of the new man in her life, Hazuki. Now, Hazuki has been relegated to a sort of disembodied spirit overseeing this whole scene, and their conversation is very revelatory in that we see more flashbacks of their past relationship and how that all plays into what's going on now. Shimao is ready to move on, and we see that Roka, she kind of feels a loyalty to him, so while she does clarify that she really has fallen in love with Hazuki, she also feels like she's causing Shimao pain, and very much so does he feel the same way about her. He feels like as long as he sticks around, whether he's in this younger man's body or not, he can only do more to make her unhappy. And they both feel this about each other largely. Of course, Hazuki's watching this, and he's kind of incredulous when at one point we kind of play on the dark themes again from the previous episode during the scene where Shimao is talking to Hazuki off to the side, and he says, I could easily kill my wife, take her spirit with me into the afterlife, and leave you to look like the murderer. And of course, as I figured, he was kind of just, playing with Hazuki, trying to test Hazuki. And that's what I've been saying for quite a while now with these reviews. I really felt like Shimao, as he had Hazuki in this dream world that was unfolding through these episodes, I really felt like he was testing Hazuki to see if he was worthy and honorable enough to sort of take his place as the man in Roka's life. And he has come to understand that his wife does really genuinely love this younger man. It wasn't that she only fell in love with Hazuki when Shimao was inhabiting his body. She really has these two men who she loves in the same manner. And so in that sort of dark moment recapturing the feeling from the last episode, there's a point where we see that it's almost as if Roka has resigned herself to Shimao killing her and taking her spirit with him into the afterlife. Shimao basically goes along with it, and we see very triumphantly that Hazuki has learned to come into his own. He's learned to gain the confidence to fight for this woman he loves, and he just dive bombs toward his own body when he sees Roka pull out a pair of scissors, and it looks very much like Shimao is going to kill her and take her spirit with him. Shimao looks at Hazuki in this way that just seems to embody to me that thought that he has been testing Hazuki, and he's proud of Hazuki for finally coming into his own. Of course, Hazuki's thrown backward into the dream world once again in a cage, and I was really just on the edge of my seat, chomping at the bit, hoping this was not how this was going to end. I was really afraid when we see that dream world again, and he's in that cage in it, that Hazuki was dead and gone, that was it for him. But of course, we go back to the real world, and we see that the conversation unfolds between Roka and Shimao, and he has left a mark on her neck, a mark that he hopes she will remember him by as she continues putting her best foot forward into a new life with Hazuki. Shimao leaves Hazuki's body, and finally Hazuki is brought back to it, and the look on his face as he sees the face of this woman he loves, Roka, looking back at him, you see the confidence. He exudes it when he talks about, let's get married, and he goes in to kiss her and all of this stuff. And there's some, little odd stuff to do with, I guess, the whole Buddhist take of eating someone's bones after death, whether that's figurative or literal, I don't know. But we do see that he's come into his own, and basically Shimao is able to move on, and we see that Roka is ready to start her life with Hazuki. Now, to my surprise and joy, we jump ahead like 30-something years, and we actually see that Hazuki has just passed on. We still see the sister-in-law Miho is alive. She's very old and aged, and she's talking to the daughter of Roka and Hazuki, who have had long, happy lives. And they even have a grandson by their daughter. And it was completely amazing to see that the generations have moved on. And that's really one of the most beautiful things about this series, the real-life themes that it plays on. Of course, it does it in a very creative way, giving us a view to the afterlife, but it's really playing on that whole thing about life and death and people having to move on in the face of it, whether it be friends who find a different path in life and thus gravitate away from us, or family, friends, and loved ones who die. They cease to exist in this world, and we have to find our footing to move on. And that's really what this series has been about. It's been about finding your closure on the past and beginning anew, taking steps forward. And the characters of Roka and Hazuki, that's what their arcs were about. With Hazuki, it was manning up and growing into an adult to basically have the courage to fight for this woman he loved and be there for her and be ready to be there for her. With Roka, it was closing the door on the past, and that was very much a similar arc with Shimao. He's been around as a spirit for so long, he needed to say goodbye, and he needed to be ready to let Roka's happiness be there, in the wake of his being gone. And this series, again, by seeing these, newer characters that much further into the future, that Roka and Hazuki have had a daughter who has had a grandson, and that the flower shop will still continue, and all of this stuff, that Shimao is still out there, just a beautiful sort of love letter to the human condition, I feel, is what this whole series was. And I couldn't be more happy by the end of it. Of course, it is bittersweet because I've grown attached to watching it, and I love the characters, and every step of the way with every episode, it was really a guessing game. You didn't know which way it was going to go, unless, of course, you had read the story it was all based on, but I hadn't. And I really, honestly, all of the questions that I was asking at the end of all of my reviews through this series were genuine ones. I didn't know who was going to end up with who, how this was all going to end. And again, by leaps and bounds, this just hit every nail on the head as far as what I hoped it would, and was just beautiful. So, of course, I'd love to hear from you guys in the comments below or as a video response what you thought of the series. Did it end for you the way you hoped it would? Was it completely disappointing, or was it just a grandiose, affirming, beautiful story? Please comment below, and for now, that'll be it from me. So, I'll catch you later. Peace.